With Halloween just round the corner, some of you may be wondering where this strange tradition all began. To get to the start, we need to travel back to the island of Ireland about 2,000 years ago. Like many other ancient communities, there was often a celebration of harvest around the end of October, which also marked the transition from the warmer to the colder months. However, the Celtic people who practiced paganism also believed that this time of year was the beginning of a new year, which also coincided with the veil between the living world and the spirit world being at its thinnest. Enter the pagan festival of Samhain. During Samhain, the Celts would light bonfires to ward off spirits and wear costumes to disguise themselves from the spirits. This resulted in them wearing animal skin and animal heads, not to be scary, but to keep themselves hidden. They would also leave food and drink lying around as an offering to the spirits, also carrying it on their person so that if they did encounter a spirit, they could offer them something. These traditions remained for roughly 600 to 700 years until the 7th century, where Christianity was beginning to run through all of Europe. Christianity and paganism famously didn't get along. However, pagan traditions were strong in Ireland, so the church needed to Christianize the pagan festivals, such as Samhain, to try and stamp out the non-Christian traditions. The church took the already existing time of year for festival and introduced the All Saints' Day to honour All Saints, as the name implies. All Saints' Day fell one day after Samhain on November the 1st. This resulted in the day before All Saints' Day being termed Hallows Eve, which led to progress into being called Halloween. In medieval times, typically thought to be around the 14th century, traditions began to change. Souling made its way into the traditions. This involved poor people in the community going door to door asking for food in exchange for praying for the deceased. This would have been the origin of the classic Halloween activity of trick-or-treating. During this time period, the idea of witches became more prominent across Europe, and as they were seen to consort with spirits and ghosts, they also became a symbol of Halloween. The other classic symbol of Halloween, the carved pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern, is harder to pinpoint. Although we know they were present in North America in the 19th century, the tradition could have originated much earlier. What we do know is that it didn't start with pumpkins, but most likely turnips or other common root vegetables, such as potatoes. By the 19th century, Irish and Scottish immigrants had travelled to North America, and they made sure to bring their traditions with them. Everything would have started out the same, however turnips became swapped for pumpkins as they were a lot more readily available. As the festival became more and more popular, people began hosting parties, wearing costumes. Trick-or-treating became widespread amongst everyone and not just the poor. In the early 20th century, Halloween was a major American holiday. In the 1920s and 30s, however, vandalism during Halloween became rife and a major problem for the American people. To combat this is where trick-or-treating really became what it is today, turning Halloween from a mischievous free-for-all to pull as many pranks and tricks as possible, to bringing in the structured activity of knocking door to door in costumes for treats. Halloween truly became what we see it as today in the 1950s, when all practices of Halloween across America became unified and streamlined. This started with the candy companies manufacturing smaller and individually wrapped sweets for the purpose of Halloween, and costumes began to become mass-produced. So when Halloween next comes around, you now know how we got to the point where everyone from ghosts, monsters, Powerpuff Girls, and even presidents are seen on the hunt for as many treats as possible.